Hello, how you doing? Getting ready to do a live chit chat, love me chit chat with my good friend Nadine Searle. Just waiting for her to arrive and connect. So we're going to be talking about one of the topics in my book, Love Me. Here she is. Let's see if I can let her. Just one sec. There she goes. Hi,
Hello.
how are
Hi,
you?
hi. I'm good, thank you. Good, good, good. How are you doing
I'm doing
today?
pretty good. Yeah.
Good.
Happy to be doing
Good.
this with you today. So
Oh,
grateful that you're
we've been,
always so willing to do talk about it and talk about what you're reading, talk about what's coming up for you, and especially talk about this topic today that we've landed
it's a
on.
biggie, isn't it?
Let me just
Yes, it is a
adjust this.
biggie, and it's come up in we have touched on it before. It's come up in our lovely deeper discussion that we hold on Zoom, hasn't it? So we
Yeah,
thought we'd open this up a little bit more because we really feel, don't we, that this is a topic that people maybe find difficult to discuss or admit to, maybe. So anger is the
anger,
word.
yes.
Anger. I don't know if you already said that before I came in.
I didn't,
And
I don't think.
stemmed from, I hope that's the right way around, from the book.
Hmm.
And I've got to be honest, Trish, you're not angry in this book a lot.
I'm not, but I did share that poem. It's interesting. Yeah.
Yes, there's not a lot
I
of
have
anger in
something to
here,
say
but
about that too afterwards, but yeah.
oh, please do.
So,
So shall I read there is this beautiful poem in here, page 21, if you've got the book, Love, Anger,
yes.
which is, it says a lot, doesn't it? Just the title. So
Hmm.
I am going to read it all, if I may, because actually, and I'll tell you afterwards why I want to read it all, because I think it's important that we hear the whole story. So bear with me. It won't take forever for me to read it, but I think it's important not to skip bits.
Okay.
So as I say, this is from Trish's wonderful book, one of her amazing poems about love, anger. So it's not fair. I have to keep starting over. Why am I the one who has to leave everything behind? Why is it I must lose everything time and time again? It's a lot of work to keep rebuilding. It feels like I've been discarded, our circadian rhythm interrupted. Ding. I deserve more than a grade up by email. Selfish protection of your heart, ego. While you were reckless with mine, was it that easy for you? We were building a life together. We had built a life together. Making plans to merge families. Is that truly how much you thought of me? How much you valued my being? The only thing that saves me from humiliation of that is knowing this act rendered you a coward. Sorry it was just too hard for you to look me in the eye and tell me to my face. You knew what that would result in. The easy button is a pattern with you, it seems. Initially, I took this to heart. Trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. I thought it was me, that I wasn't worth the effort of working through conflict. I realise I am, in fact, worth it, that is. I have always been. I am worthy of so much more. Turns out it was you who did not believe in your own worth. The conflict reveals part of oneself we do not wish to see, parts of oneself that perhaps we don't like. You know, whatever it is that you've been escaping your entire life, have you faced it even now? Does it comfort your ego to make me pay for the sacrifices you made for her? Do you even realise this is what you asked of me? To repay all that you had to give up before we even crossed paths. So many unanswered questions. I would have never been able to carry that burden, no matter how much I tried. How many different ways I attempted to, and there are so many ways. I did. I carried it far too long, not realising that I was even carrying, what it was I was even carrying, I do beg your pardon. The weight of it, unbearable at times. I guess I should thank you for liberating me. This is how you framed it, after all. I know I am complex, deep, messy, and complicated. I loved you the same way. truly, madly, deeply, as they say. I'll take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday over simple and easy. A half-hearted, mediocre life. Life wasn't meant to be a cakewalk. Sounds like a waste of a trip on this physical plane to me. But your karma is not my business anymore anyway. I hope you're happy. Truly now I do. Remnants of me, of our love, of the life we were building, linger everywhere, while simultaneously fading away until we are all but a distant memory. You will still search for me, the essence of me, in all the spaces and places you go, out on the seas and up the moonlit sky, in the chill of the breeze that passes you by, in between your sheets and in everyone you meet, and you will never find me. I love that ending. I so love that. You'll never find me. Now that, I don't know what emotions that brought up for you, Trish. I can't imagine, but even for me, I'm going, oh my gosh. That, why I wanted to read the whole thing is that I really wanted to really show that you're dipping in and out of this and you're trying to be kind and understanding and rationalize it, but you've got that underlying anger. It's there whatever you're doing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to read the whole thing. So thank you so much for sharing that. That is really, really, that's a biggie, isn't it?
It is a biggie. And I will say that I feel a bit detached from the feelings of that anger, but listening to you reading it now, it's bringing me back to that feeling of how, like, why I felt the way that I felt, and me going through the motions or going through the feeling of what was coming up inside of me. And I think it's so important that you're bringing this forward, because it's so timely, because I was almost not going to include this poem in the next version of my poetry book, because when I read it, I'm like, I don't feel this way. Like, I've processed that anger and I've let it go. So number one, it's good for us to express our anger, where in society we've been, and that's what one of the things we wanted to talk about is, like, we've kind of been conditioned to suppress it and to keep a lid on it, or whatever the phrase, smile more. Like, we hear that a lot as women, or whatever. Don't get so angry. But anger is a valid emotion, as we have talked about, and I think that it's important, just like any other emotion on the spectrum, it holds information for us. So something stood out in my poem that you read about the conflict reveals parts of ourselves. I really think it's the truth that is behind the conflict, but the truth reveals parts of ourselves that we're not willing to face sometimes.
Yes.
And so, and for me, getting all that out, and that's a 2-page poem, and it was a lot, and it was, the language that I chose to wrote that was really expressive of that anger. And I think it's so important, because we can't let go of the anger until we feel it. So I think that's why we're talking about this, not to hide our anger or not to push it away, but to lean into it, as we've said before. And, there's so much there for us to learn behind it.
That there really is. And can I ask you, when you originally were writing this, and I don't know your process, I'm not sure, but were you writing it in anger? Did you start off with this, I need to get this out, this is
I was like, I think you hear me say, why do I have to start over again? And why don't, and when you started reading that is in a bigger context of, because it's like, and that's why this breakup was so monumental in me having this journey and writing the book Love Me, and realizing how I was showing up. Because it's like, why time and time again do I, like, when there's an ending of some sort, I end up with nothing again. I end up having to restart from the beginning again. And so there was so much frustration and anger in that, and on top of that, heartbreak. So it was all kind of intertwined. And
so many emotions going on.
There's so many emotions and so many layers of that anger, because it wasn't just the anger of the ending, it was how it ended that was really that behind that. Why do I have to start over again? Was like, there was also the part of how I was having to start over again, and how I was, like, kind of notified of that. So that is all part of what we find out about ourselves when we allow ourselves to go in and explore the feeling, whatever it is. But in this case, we're talking about the anger. And I think that anger is on top of a lot of other things that we might be feeling in in that moment. Like there's sadness, there's resentment, there's just, well, pure
There's
heartbreak, but
fear,
there's
isn't
still
there? That's,
love, and there's just deep pain
yeah.
all underneath that anger in that poem that I wrote. So there's probably other
That's what.
emotions too in there.
That's why I did want to read it all. I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
just take it out, because you can feel every emotion going on
Yeah.
there. And I think a little bit of, and I don't know if even if the words are in there, how dare you, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, and you've got every right to feel that way,
Mm-hmm.
haven't you? It's that kind of thing. And I really, you've hit on it already, but I'd like just to repeat it again. For conflict reveals parts of oneself we do not wish to see.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that so many people are scared of, being angry. They're scared of showing their anger, that even to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because they go, oh, I don't know. I used to say, I don't like myself when I'm angry. My
Yeah.
mum used to say it to me, oh, you're not pretty when you're swearing, which because that's how I
But
expressed
see,
myself.
this is how it happens. This is how
It does,
subtly we're conditioned
not to
to hide
blame.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, not to blame, but just to know that we are brought up in this way. And as an emotion,
Mm-hmm.
anger is one that is pushed down in society, isn't it? I was a nursery school teacher, as you know, for 13 years, and we did not allow children to be angry. Now that
Yes.
to me
And
is like,
then,
anger comes from, what is underneath it. At half the time with little children, especially, I think even with me as an adult, it's fear. We're angry because
mm-hmm.
we're scared. We're angry because we're frustrated. We can't communicate. We can't say. We can't whatever. We're not getting our needs met. And I specialised with special needs. Luckily, I trained in that with my nursery children,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to support their anger rather than suppress it. And
Yeah.
with the education system, that didn't sit very well. Almost encourage the anger to come out and get through it. But that wasn't the way that I was taught.
Right.
Um, Even within my education, my training to be a nursery school teacher, so again I was at odds with the system because I thought no, children need to be able to express it. It's that kind of get a punch bag, do what you need to do, get it out, get through it,
Yeah.
what is this all about kind of thing.
Right.
And I look back to my childhood, and if someone had given me that opportunity to express it, I would have managed my anger much better over the years. I've come to terms with it now, but it's been a long, hard journey, and I welcome my anger. Actually, it shows me what I need to know.
What
Um,
exactly? Yeah.
mm,
I think that,
it's a,
when you have any sort of emotion, it should be a signal that there's something there to explore behind it. Like
mm,
what is it that I need to learn about myself, or how
yes,
I'm reacting
yeah,
to a situation, and what is it
mm,
teaching me, and how can I um, go in and feel that. And I think it's so important for us to be talking about this and to keep talking about it, because especially with anger, because anger kind of gets, like we've said, kind of put over on the side in
yes,
its own
it's that
little,
thing. Mm,
compartment or whatever. And then
mm.
there's all sorts of other emotions that are sort of acceptable, but maybe not either. Like you can't cry in the workplace or whatever. You can't be
Yeah,
sad, or
this is
it's
the thing, isn't it? And
it's
none of them are really acceptable. But I think anger carries that. It's almost taboo, isn't it? We're not supposed to talk about it. We're not supposed
it
to be angry.
is.
But with real importance, I think that sometimes with anger comes violence, and that's not to be encouraged, obviously, but there are other ways of working through it.
Yeah.
And this is what I think people need to understand, and it does start with admitting, like I did, anger
Hmm.
was my first biggest strongest emotion. And within my family, as I was growing up, it was the one that, strange as it might sound, the one that was most common and the one that was most accepted, that more than
Yeah.
love and kindness and sadness, actually. But I learnt, God, it took a long time to learn, as with everything, that actually once I'd when I've not worked through my anger, because I didn't do that at the time, but once the anger had gone, once I'd vented that in whatever shape or form, then what came underneath it was great sadness.
Yeah.
And the sadness always came after. And I used to think, well, why can't I just jump to the sadness? But I could not skip the anger.
Hmm.
And this is something I think people really need to, you can't get rid of it. It's worth going there
And
and
yeah,
finding out what is underneath it. It's not always sadness, it can be lots of things, can't it?
right.
But to find out what it is.
You just unlocked something huge there, because it is really the anger is on top of the other emotions, so we can't get to those if we're not going to deal with our anger. And then,
Exactly. Yeah.
so we end up suppressing all of it. And
Yes. Yeah.
you said something about how it can turn to, if we have that pent up anger, it can turn to violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening. Either it becomes a weapon, either internally, with disease in our body, if we're not
Yeah.
processing
Yeah.
it, or externally, we're harming others, and
Mm.
with
Mm.
this unprocessed emotion. And so I think it's so valuable, like the way you just described it, that it's, what's really behind the anger. Like there's the anger that's kind of the face of the emotion, but then whether it's fear or sadness or whatever it might be. And I think, I just think of an example as a parent is, and I myself have done this. I've seen other parents do this, where your child's running out into the street, into traffic or into whatever, and you
Mm.
like yell at
Yeah.
them, you get so angry with them. But
Yes, of
what's really
course.
behind that emotion is fear. We're afraid that something bad is going to
Yeah.
happen, but the immediate knee-jerk reaction is
Yeah.
anger, and which is valid, but it's like then we kind of feel bad about ourselves for feeling that
Mm.
way. So
In that
it's really
instant.
in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
instant, and it's really I don't know, I just think it's so powerful to kind of explore that rather than making ourselves feel bad about feeling the anger, and
Yeah.
to
Mm.
really, look behind it. And it also prompts an opportunity, like you said, when you were working with children in the schools, to explore what's beneath that, and to really
Yes.
start talking about it, because the
You start
expression of
understanding.
our
Yeah.
anger is what helps us let go of the anger. So
Yes. You start
that's
understanding
that's yeah,
what's happening. Yeah.
and that's
But do
why
you think sorry, interrupted. When you said about that, the classic when your child runs out in front of a car and
yeah,
everything, there is fear, but don't you think that's also that love?
it's
You
love.
love
Yeah.
this person so much that you have anger, you have the emotions come up, and it does fill you with the adrenaline, it fills you with what you need, that instant
Hmm.
rage, if you like. It's important sometimes, isn't it, to get that feeling,
And to know
but
it's
to learn
okay.
how to,
Yeah.
yeah, to know it's okay and it's not going to be so bad. It's only for a moment. We can get through it.
Hmm.
That's the lesson I feel is so valuable for people to learn, isn't it? Because there are so many, you must know people too that just don't go there. They
Yeah.
do not go there because, for so many reasons. And that, like you say, is not healthy for anybody, is it?
Right.
So,
Or just like when you're avoiding conflict, for example,
mm,
which,
mm,
I've experienced. And in fact, in that the relationship that I was in, it was like, the ending came because there was conflict, and but there was also love there. So it's like, why avoid the conflict because it represents maybe a point of frustration, or maybe the emotion of anger, and it's like we don't want to go there because we might not like what we see
yeah,
about
yeah,
ourselves, because we've been so trained to think that anger is bad, and
yes,
anger is it gets equated with bad behavior, but it gets equated with bad behavior because we're constantly suppressing it. So it's coming out,
mm,
it's acting out in ways that we are subconsciously like we don't even necessarily realize we're doing it in the moment,
yeah. We don't know how to
um,
do anger, do
because
we?
we're
We're not,
not in touch with that emotion. So,
yeah,
I think
mm,
it's so, and I feel like even to be talking about anger as a valid emotion is an
I
unpopular
think,
opinion, because so I'm glad
mm,
that we're doing it. I'm glad
I,
we're talking that and trying to break the stigma around anger
yes,
is just as valid or just as justified as sadness or
yeah.
joy or hope or
Mm.
love or all, any emotion that you're feeling.
I feel so. There's no good or bad, is there? I
Yeah.
feel it's all, and I feel as well that with me, sometimes, getting that anger does help. It might sound a bit strange, but helps me understand exactly what, sometimes I need to set new boundaries. I need to get, looking after me. So sometimes feeling that anger goes, oh, that's because I've let someone do something that maybe I've not been looking after myself, is what I'm trying to
Right.
say.
That's such a
The
good
anger can
point.
kick in
Yeah.
because I'm a bit cross with myself quite often, oh, I've done it again, or I've done something. And
Hmm.
then the anger kicks in, and then I go, oh, okay, it's okay to feel that anger. And also, I again, I've got to be careful what I say, but I think it's okay to share that. It's okay sometimes to shout at somebody, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it is okay to actually express your feelings. Like I said earlier, my mum used to say, "Oh, you're not pretty when you swear," and my reaction to that was, "Well, I feel like I don't want to swear now, but I feel like swearing. That's what I'm feeling, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what it's all about." So sometimes only a good swear word will do.
And
It's
sometimes you
that.
just have to let it out. I know. I think that,
Mm,
when I was a young mother and I had two toddlers, and I wouldn't, I would try to avoid obviously yelling at them. Not
yeah,
obviously, but I would go out in the garage and scream into a pillow because I have to have some sort of
there
outlet
you
for that.
go.
But then
An
I'm
outlet.
doing that and I'm not causing harm to them and
Yeah,
lashing out at them, and
yes.
and
You
instead
found a
coming to
way.
them from a calmer place of then.
Yeah,
But I think expressing that anger, even if you do shout at somebody, it allow you know but it allows you to get it out, but then also it allows an opportunity to have a conversation about it and to be. So I think, we want to avoid the anger initially, and we also want to, oh, let's not talk about it either. And so I think there's a couple parts to that, and making that, or allowing the full wisdom or information about ourselves within that anger to be revealed through
I, I
feeling
think
it
that's
and then talking
yeah,
about it, expressing
allowing
it,
it.
talking. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes I really feel that people need to know that they've made you angry, something they've done. If you do wait until you're calm and you say things all nicely, sometimes it doesn't have the impact that it needs.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, I know in my work days years ago, when I worked in sales and in a pressured environment, and back to when I was a chef, in a very busy kitchen, everyone shouted. It was important. We had to shout. We had to get things done quickly, and it was, and so people were constantly. I wouldn't say they were angry, but they were on full, vibrancy, and it wasn't a bad thing. If you got shouted at, it's because something was really important, and it made you go, right, got to do that. You took notice, so
Mm-hmm.
it's not always bad, is it? I don't think. And nobody needs to apologise for that, I don't think either, because sometimes we do need to shout and show our
Yeah,
anger.
well, I think that we need to, yeah, express what we need to express. And if, I mean, it's kind of a tricky situation. I know what you mean about shouting at people, I think it needs a conversation. It needs to be expressed and also communicated. And I think
Yeah,
that's what the missing link is the communication. and
yeah,
and maybe, it does, when you do have some force behind that, when you are angry, it does call attention, just like you said, when you were working in that environment. It wasn't that somebody was angry at you, but it was like to raise attention, to
it's
make it
important. Yeah.
important. So I
Mm,
mean, I think
mm,
it works on both sides. I think part of the issue is that anger is so to be avoided at all costs that we won't.
yeah.
So like
Mm,
once somebody expresses anger, well, then it makes the other person angry, and instead of like talking about it or saying,
yeah.
this is what. So you have the expression of anger, you have an outburst or whatever, but then you come together and you say, this is what really made
Yes.
me angry. And that it's
Yeah.
okay to let somebody know that something made them angry, and
Mm,
maybe it's an
mm,
opportunity for yourself, if you're the one that got angry, to say, hey, maybe I didn't set a boundary, or if I had a boundary, I didn't honor my own
that's
boundary. And so
exactly.
maybe
Yeah.
I need to
Exactly.
next time, make sure that I'm taking care of myself too. And it's
Yeah.
kind of this delicate dance of communicating with each other. And I think that it can be done in a healthy way
Yeah.
if you take the time to do that, to communicate, to have a transparent and open conversation around it.
Yeah.
Because we're all human. This all comes down to, another reason why I think we avoid it is because of our ego. We're driven by ego, and we want to be right. But we don't always have to be right. And if we're maybe, wrong in something, if we're wrong in being angry, that's okay too. Or it's okay
Yeah.
if we thought we knew something and then it turns out to be something else. Like there's so much grace and compassion there for us if we allow ourselves
Mm,
just to even go into the conversation, if we allow ourselves to
yeah.
even begin to communicate it. And first it starts by identifying the emotion, being angry, and then exploring it, I think.
I love that so much. And also, being female as we are, we're affected by the moon. Sometimes we're affected by our hormones, we're affected by what's going on with the planets. And at the moment, I think, I never get it quite right, but is it Mars in Gemini is fanning the flames? Is that what's
Mars
going on
is
at the
in
moment?
we're going retrograde in Gemini, and there's some of that. There's also, I think there's a big, because of the way that let me see if I understand this correctly. And I follow a lot of great astrologers on Instagram. One is Astronatic, but I remember seeing Anastasia Astrology. She talked about Mars being in Gemini, and oh, sorry, my batteries. It's in square opposition right now, and that's in its natal comfort zone, its home, that square aspect. So it's asking us to kind of, I think it's asking us to pause, to not
Yeah,
be so reactive, and to be careful with our the way we communicate. I myself, I think in the last week, have kind of miscommunicated things. I can name 3 times, like, that were big ones. And so it's just to kind of take a step back, and to be, whether or not we believe in that or not, it's happening anyways, as you always say. And
this is the thing. Yeah, it's happening anyway.
so
Go
the
with it.
energies are
Yeah.
supporting us, and we can be supported in that, but we can also be negligent, and just, but we have the opportunity to be intentional with that. So I think it's
That's
important
where
to note.
to know that there's more working around us, and it's there to support us. And sometimes when we are, our temper's a little bit short and we are a little bit there's a reason behind it. We don't have to understand it, do we?
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that is supporting us, isn't it? To actually go, be brave, because you have to be brave, don't you?
Yeah,
And be brave and say what you need to say. And if it comes out the wrong way, it's okay.
it's okay. It's
Sometimes we just need
okay.
to say it.
That's the thing, that it's okay if we, whether it's an angry outburst, we say something wrong, we can always come back. And the more we practice that, the more we just are an example to in that for others. Like, the more we're all going to, everyone starts to take note and have the awareness, and then apply that awareness. And
Yeah.
that's why we're talking about this. So I think
Yes.
it's so good that, we're having this conversation, especially around anger. It's a tricky one. So it's and
It
not,
is.
I think that's why we don't hear a lot of people talking about it. But, and I'm okay to not be perfect in, any of it. I want to explore it, and to understand, and to always be learning and growing. So, and I know you do too.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's learning from it and actually just being okay with what is.
Whatever what is,
And
yeah.
and that is okay, isn't it? And actually, like you say, it's okay if we get it wrong, because
Yes.
it's fine. And I think it is very much, we've started this discussion. It is very important, and I really want to welcome people to join in. Talk to us privately, join in. We're going to have a Zoom deeper discussion, aren't we, on the
Yep.
7th of
7th.
September? Again, that, where people can talk a bit more and everything, so welcome people to join in with that. But do get in touch with us in the meantime if you've got any stories you want to share, or you just want to talk to us privately,
Yeah.
because you support so many people with their emotions with the work that you do. Reading your book helps people, doesn't it? And I think people, it's nice sometimes if they can be held through this and actually be supported
I think so
through
too.
experimenting with emotions, because it can be scary, can't it? And we don't always get it right. So
Yeah.
it, I really feel so. How can everyone get in touch with you
Well,
and find out more about your lovely healing
um,
and how you do that?
on Instagram, this is Trish Campbell. My website is thisistrishcampbell.com. I'm on Facebook as well. And I want to say, you do the similar work in supporting people through their emotions with their gentle questioning. I myself have
Mm,
experienced that,
mm.
and am benefiting from the services that you offer in so many different ways. You've helped me. So I want to allow people, to let them know how they can get in contact with you too.
Yeah. Well, part of my Calm Myself method, which you can find all over the place, Calm Myself on Facebook, Calm Myself on YouTube. One of the steps, it's a 6-step program, is actually sitting with difficult emotions. So I
Mm-hmm.
do help people to learn how to do that.
Yep.
But what I'd like to say, what some people find, and I know when I work with you, what I love so much is that I don't have to talk about things. I don't have to remember things. I don't have to do any work.
Yeah.
Your lovely healing, the work happens. So sometimes people go, oh, I don't want to be angry. They're going to make me be angry. They're going to make me pretend to be, that kind of thing. It isn't like that, is it? It's actually just walking through those emotions in a very soft and gentle, safe way, isn't it? And that's what I'd like people to get the message of for both of our work, isn't it? That's how we help people.
Yeah.
Because people are scared, aren't they? People are scared of getting in touch with their anger. They don't know what it's all about, but we can make great progress in a very gentle way, can't we? And
we can,
that's
and it's so beautiful. It is so beautiful to explore and to journey into with all the different ways that we help others do that. So, and I'm so grateful to be able to serve in that way, and I know you are too.
Yeah, yeah, we love helping people do it. I've just got to say, I've been distracted here. It's got hello, Mercurial Moth joined us. I know there was a few people earlier, and I missed saying hello, but it's hard to talk and read. Isn't it?
It is. So how can people get in touch with you? I don't think you said your website.
Yes, everything for me is Karma Self. So it's the website is Karma Self, YouTube channel. There's tons on the YouTube channel. And that's Karma Self, and the Karma Self method is what I am on Instagram. So yeah, just have a look and you'll find out lots more about me and what I do. And the same with you, Trish. This is Trish Campbell, aren't you?
Yeah.
All over the place.
And yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much for, again, bringing this forward and wanting to talk about these tough topics that, not a lot of people are talking about. And that was the whole point why I wrote the book and the way that I did it. And yeah, and Love Me. And I don't think I got to finish my thought earlier when you read that poem, Love Anger, at the beginning. And when I was, I'm doing a poetry only version of Love Me that's coming out in the fall. But when I almost wasn't going to include that poem because I thought I'm not in that place anymore. And I'm not, I kind of feel emotionally neutral around that. But I thought, no, this is real. This is raw. This is, it needs to be seen how when we express how we're feeling, how we can come out of that too. And those emotions are valid and it's all okay. Even if we think we have some sort of negative feeling around that it's okay. And that's all part of the process. That's why we're talking about it.
I think so. It must be difficult for you because, like you say, now you're bringing out your book of poetry. And, it's a little while since you wrote your book initially, isn't it? So you might very well go, oh, people aren't interested, I've moved on, that kind of thing. But I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels it. But please don't miss anything out. It's all important.
It is.
It's so important. Yeah. So I know maybe that's not what you want to hear, but I just think don't miss anything out because
I'm not. And in fact, in the poetry book, there's going to be even more poetry. Excuse me one second. I got to grab my charger, and unhook this because I'm going to lose power.
Is the universe telling us we've talked enough?
Yeah. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that I added another chapter, and there's more poetry. Brilliant. I think there's probably at least 24 more poems, if not 3, and so yeah, I'm excited about it. You've probably already thought of it, but my mind just went to like, oh, we want to hear how you're getting on now, the updates and how things are going and everything, because this is just going to go on forever, isn't it? It's just wonderful. It is. So I think the interest in like how's Trish doing now, revisiting everything. Well, maybe we need to do a chit chat about that or a podcast episode on one of our podcasts. So yes, we'll have definitely. Make a note. That would be that would be really good, wouldn't it? But so let's say to everyone, please experiment with a bit of anger, whatever shape or form you're comfortable with. Ask for help if you're really struggling with it, and talk about it. When you're not angry sometimes is a good thing, isn't it? So if people can just hear that today. And find which way is best for you to express it. For me, it's writing. It's also painting, but writing is my main source of expression, and I think it's so powerful because it takes us through that healing, and we come to the other side of it stronger and empowered, I think. So failing that, a punch bag. And that too, the physical release as well.
The physical works, doesn't it? We're joking, but the physical
ways.
works. You know, go for a
It's
brisk
not
walk,
just
you know,
one
do
way.
whatever you need
Yeah.
to do. Shout at the sea. That's what I
Yeah.
do
Just
sometimes,
like
you
we
know,
used to
that
go
kind
shout
of
in a
thing.
pillow. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of ways, isn't there?
Yeah.
Lots of ways. So I think it's been lovely. So pleased that you're talking about this and that you've written it in your book so we can bring it up. It's really important, I think.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this with me, and I'm so grateful we're continuing this. And like I think you mentioned, if anyone wants to join us for the private session, you can always message us. We'll be having the
Yes.
other one coming up September 7th, and
Yes.
taking this deeper. And it's such a healing and nourishing and safe space to share. So thanks everyone for watching and listening and joining us, and let us know what you think in the comments when you
Yes,
I'll
love
post the
to hear.
replay.
Love to hear. Mm,
So
love to hear. Thank you so much, Trish.
yeah,
Thank you for
thank
answering my
you.
questions.
Thanks so much. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye for now.